begins. Abraham fathered Isaac. Isaac fathered Jacob. Jacob fathered Judah and his brothers. Judah fathered Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez fathered Hezron. Hezron fathered Aram. Aram fathered Aminadab. Aminadab fathered Nahshon. Nahshon fathered Solomon. Solomon fathered Boaz by Rahab. Boaz fathered Obed by Ruth. Obed fathered Jesse. And Jesse fathered King David. Then David gathered Solomon. Then David fathered Solomon by Uriah's wife. Solomon fathered Rehoboam. Rehoboam fathered Abijah. Abijah fathered Asa. Asa fathered Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat fathered Joram. Joram fathered Uzziah. Uzziah fathered Jotham. Jotham fathered Ahaz. Ahaz fathered Hezekiah. Hezekiah fathered Manasseh. Manasseh fathered Ammon. Ammon fathered Josiah. Josiah fathered Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile to Babylon. Then after the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah fathered Salathiel. Salathiel fathered Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel fathered Abiud. Abiud fathered Eliakim. Eliakim fathered Azor. Azor fathered Zadok. Zadok fathered Akim. Akim fathered Eliud. Eliud fathered Eleazar. Eleazar fathered Mathan. Mathan fathered Jacob. And Jacob fathered Joseph, the husband of Mary, who gave birth to Jesus, who was called the Messiah. So all the generations from Abraham to David were 14 generations. From David until the exile to Babylon, 14 generations. And from the exile to Babylon to the Messiah, 14 generations. The title of our message this afternoon is Legacy. Lord, I ask that you would bless us and talk to us, teach us. Let them not see me, but to see your truth. Lift and glorify in Jesus Christ's name. Everybody say, amen. Legacy. The celebration of Black History Month was both a necessary corrective to the exclusion and the misrepresentation of blacks in American history. And it's an affirmation of Black life passed on from one generation to the next. Contrary to the timeline of many 19th and early 20th century textbooks, Black history is much more than a shallow overview of the conditions of slavery and the emancipation of enslaved Africans in the Americas. Yet African and American contributions to history have often been denied, ignored, devalued, or purposefully hidden and attributed to Europeans and Euro-Americans. You see, this season of fake news and false stories is nothing new. The need to reverse historical miseducation and set the record straight on the historical, cultural, scientific, and political and social achievements of ethnic African and African American peoples has been a main thrust behind the celebration of Black history. But nowadays, it seems as though its impact has been lessened over time. As February rolls around and it's just another month, it seems as though its impact and its importance to Black peoples in America is being watered down and lessened over the years because of the lack of educational emphasis and remembering where you've come from and what has happened in the past of your forefathers. We're talking about legacy. Prior to the first recorded arrival of 20 involuntary African laborers to North America in British settler colony of Jamestown, Virginia on August 20th, 1619, our Black ancestors participated in civilizations on the continent of Africa, such as the Yoruba, Akan, Bakongo, Benin, Wolof, Mandinka, Mende, Dogon, Dahomey, and many others, and the Mali Empire. These were sophisticated cultures with extensive histories, creative arts, their own political regimes, political intrigues. They have their own religions and social hierarchies and ethnic groupings. There is historical evidence that Africans now had traveled to the Americas several times prior to the European Enlightenment and the establishment of the transatlantic slave trade. We have been here before. With the onset of the financially profitable transatlantic slave trade, slavery soon became legalized in the British colonies of North America. Through forced migration, the Middle Passage, and the African diaspora, the ancestors of African Americans survived extreme hardships to become a vital part of the landscape transformation and the creation of society and the cultures of the Americas. In the 20th century, a leading figure in the celebration of Black history is known by Carter G. Woodson. Mr. Woodson was trained as a historian, earning his doctorate from Harvard University in 1912. Woodson went on to teach at Howard University and became a co-founder, along with Jesse E. Moreland, of the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Woodson believed that history of African Americans was also American history, and that the inclusion of truthful scientific facts concerning Black achievements would work to change race relations for the better. In 1926, Negro History Week was established, and Woodson's efforts to popularize the recognition and study of African American contributions to the Americas and to world history paid off. 50 years later, in 1976, the celebration of Black history would expand to encompass the entire month of February. Although Woodson and W.E. Du Bois are prominent persons in the emergence of Black historiography and the study of Black life, there are many other women and men whose work and tenacity contributed to the success of Black history. As an academic field of study and the public popularity of Black history celebrations, there are many individuals, if we would just look them up, we would know that more than 2 or 3 people have contributed to this Black History Month and this hallmark of celebration of our accomplishments in our past. But in celebrating our past and looking back at our legacy, we must be mindful that all legacy is not positive. And that if you want to learn something about your past and pass on a contribution to your children in the future, you need to have a well-rounded and well-founded history that includes both the good things and the bad things. We see here in the genealogy of Jesus Christ that Jesus had a very, very colorful legacy. The people in his backstory now were very varied. We know that somebody in his backstory now, Abraham, the father of Isaac and Jacob, he did not have a good track record in taking care of his wife when it came down to it. He was trying to save his own skin and putting in jeopardy the plan of salvation. He did that a couple times over, but yet God still saw fit to use him. If we would also continue looking, we would see that Jesus' genealogy had some great examples in there. Boaz and Ruth, Jesse, and Father King David. But then we get to King David, and he puts a massive wrinkle in this genealogy. The Bible states, and it does not pull any punches when it says in verse 6, Jesse was the father of David the king. David was the father of Solomon by Bathsheba, who had been the wife of Uriah. Man, that's an epic television series right there. A reality TV show could get no better than everything contained in that one sentence. We sometimes are ashamed of the messiness in our historical family lines. At Thanksgiving times and Christmas times, we want to affirm all those people who are doing positive and great things. Oh man, you got good grades in school, that's good. We always, at least let me talk about my family now. We got to big up the people who are doing great things and evidence that you can put your hands on and see. But those people who might be struggling to find their way, they are not pushed aside, they're just overlooked and not featured in the familial discussions because there is a certain element of perhaps shame there that we have not articulated and come to grips with yet. But that same thing is present in our backstories of African Americans. If you look at your own family, you might recognize some instances in where you yourself might have avoided some uncomfortable truths about how you came into being, about how your fathers gained their wealth, about how your families used to do certain things, and when they were younger or generations before you, maybe they used to do bootleg. Maybe they used to be drug dealers or gangsters. Who knows? But everybody's family stories are chock full of prideful things and then shameful things. But Jesus is a hallmark of encouragement for us because he came through a messy family tradition. After all, it says David snatched somebody else's wife and they put it down in Jesus' genealogy. The first chapter of the gospel, they made sure that we all know that Jesus' line included people who represented the worst of humanity and the best. God is faithful now despite humans and our mistakes. He is faithful to us despite our mistakes, despite our weaknesses and our frailties and our failures. He is still faithful to work with us. We should embrace all of the examples in our history, the good ones and the bad ones, because the good ones serve as something that we should strive to emulate, and the bad ones serve as a great deterrent of things that we perhaps should not do. If we did not have the bad ones, some of us might do those things. Some of us are doing them things anyway, just because nobody in the family talked to us about how somebody else had already done the thing that you are caught up in right now. And so if you do not talk about your own personal failures with your children, talk about how your legacy is not as pristine and shiny as it seems to be to everybody else in the general public, don't you think that that child might grow up disillusioned? It will be difficult for them to balance this new revelation of truth that an aunt or an uncle or a sibling or a cousin or somebody might thrust upon them in a moment of anger, shattering their view of their family legacy. What if we looked at our legacies and we accepted them all the way? We can be better prepared to be successful and build something greater for the future. We can mirror the behaviors of people we want to follow, but also run away from the negative examples. We can learn from our family tree. Now, when we look at that, we can see how the positive behaviors have affected our lineage and how families have been grown or broken through decisions that have been made and behaviors. Being in the family of Christ now, one time we get baptized and we come to a church, our families kind of sort of expands. If we buy into this philosophy or idea of church membership and we're all a part of the body of Christ. If we do, you will recognize that your extended family ain't all that in a bag of chips. They just like your family in the house. Kind of messy, kind of shady, kind of loving, kind of honest, kind of supportive. It's a mixed bag of things. But God is still faithful to work with that mixed bag. Whenever we're adopted into Jesus' family, into his genealogy and his legacy now, we get a host of new redeemed believers, but we forget that they are redeemed, just like we're redeemed. That means we're redeemed and called from some things. Membership now in the family of God that we get baptized into, it equips us with examples and lessons and resources that may not have been accessible in our natural familial lines. You may not have had a positive uncle or father figure in your life, but there might be somebody in your extended church family who might be able to serve as that example for you. And so that you can begin to rewrite the narrative of your future and your back history by accepting your past and the messiness of that and crafting something better for the future. A legacy now is something that we all should be mindful of its impact on our futures and our past. Our children now will be the ones who are affected most by our legacies. If we look at a definition of a legacy, it says a gift by will, especially of money or other personal property. She left a legacy of $1 million. Or it's something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor from the past. We all have those legacy sins, right? And struggles and temptations. But if we discuss those things, we can be on the front side of them. And so when you go into the dating scene and you know that somebody else in your family line was struggling in a certain place, you might be able to avoid some challenges. You might even avoid falling into alcoholism if you know that some people in your family were alcoholics, or you might not even smoke weed or cigarettes or even anything that might have a possibility of trapping you. Whenever if you so happen to become affiliated with a Greek culture, you can pass on legacy. You can come into that just because your father or your mother was. Legacy is something that we should be actively thinking about, because the things that I do, my children are going to do. The plans that I lay and seek to bring to pass are going to directly impact them. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday, he's an insurance agent. We were talking about when family dies and everybody's scrambling now to get GoFundMes together to raise money to bury them and all these different things. And it's only because of a lack of planning, a lack of remembering that you too will one day die. Does that not affect a legacy? Whereas you might have had a great life and a great reputation, but when you die and all of your debts come due, all of a sudden all of those positive things in life are overshadowed in your death. As African Americans now, and we look at our storied history, we can see times where people really made us proud. We got a black president. We had some people who tried to be president, and we just shake our head in shame at the foolishness that they said and did. We have some athletes who were so proud that they did that thing. Michael Jordan. And we have some other athletes who did that thing and failed massively when it came out that they might have been cheating or something else. We have shining examples of what it means to be a family man, but then we have the examples of where the rugs have been pulled out from under us and America's dad has been shown to be a farce. But that's all in our backstory. There are moments where we cringe, and there's yet far many moments where we can shout and celebrate together. So this Black History Month, I challenge us to accept everything in our past. It's already done. That means accepting your family's past, looking at the negatives and the pros and using them. That also means accepting the past of your nation, the pros and the cons, and moving forward, fully equipped with the knowledge of history, because history always seems to repeat itself if we're not aware. And then that also means that you're accepting the past of your local church family as well. Looking critically at the things that were done in the past, at the hurts, at the successes, and so that we can accept that information and use it to make wiser choices for the future, because the future is yet to be written and the legacy is still being etched in stone. Legacies can always change if there's people alive to carry them forward. So we're here now, we're trying to make it to the kingdom where we can have our legacy, looking back on our lives and how we overcame some things. Black History Month is a whole 28 days of celebration of legacy, of Black legacy, and Black accomplishments and failures and close calls and amazing wins and joys and pains. But it's there for us to remember, and I challenge us to not just work every day of the month like it's just another month. Just take some time and reflect on some things, and perhaps it will motivate you to do something different on tomorrow. Perhaps it will motivate you to do something different in your own families, your own church families, even in our relationships with our spouses, cousins, anybody, with our children. But God is coming, and he used Jesus' very background for a specific purpose. He holds it up there that you too can do something great and amazing despite how you might have come into being, despite your family histories, The future can be what you make it. Lord, thank you for showing us in the Bible that Jesus, the Son of God and the Son of Man, he did not have a pristine backstory, but Lord, we're thankful for that because we too now can be comfortable with the fact that we're all born and shaped in iniquity. But because of you and your grace and mercy, we're able to be forgiven of our sins, and we're able to look forward to a positive future, one filled with hope and ambition and hope that our tomorrows can be better than today and our yesterdays. Lord, we're asking that if we choose to have difficult conversations about our histories and our family histories, that we will do them in love, knowing and remembering that they too are humans just trying to work this thing of life out. Help us to be patient and loving and kind to each other when we are seeking to understand our past so that we can do a better job in the future. Most of all, Lord, I ask that you would save us when we come again, so that we might be able to stand on that sea of glass and celebrate the legacy, the victory that has been gifted